Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to call the Monday, January 8, 2018 monthly Board of Fire Commissioners, Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District to order. Please rise for an invocation, followed by a moment of silence from Chaplain Chitwood and the pledge.
I'd like to have a moment of silence, as we do every month, for those that have lost their lives as firemen. This past month in the U.S. there's been 12, and for the year 93. So let's observe a moment of silence for them and their families, and then close with a prayer. Dear God, we come to you today and we give you thanks for those that serve as first responders across our nation, and Lord, as those that have died in service and in duty this year. We thank you for their sacrifice. We pray, Lord, that you'll be with their families, that you will comfort them and give them strength. And Lord, we pray for protection for those that serve here in Bonita Springs. Thank you for their dedication and their commitment, and I pray that you'll watch over them and keep them safe. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any public comment on agenda items this evening? I don't have any cards, but would anybody like to speak on agenda items? Yes. Mr. Grant? You're up. Is that
already?
Yep.
Just public comment at the end, or?
Oh, is this on an agenda item? Or
No, it's item 14. Public comment.
Okay, no, at the end. I'm sorry. I thought it was
That's
on an
right.
agenda item. Thank you. First order of business is to replace Commissioner Pat McCourt, who resigned, and we had three very solid applications for the job, and no matter who gets the job this evening, we thank all three of them because every one of them were more than qualified to do the job, and I think everybody up here shares that opinion and would be happy to work with any of them. I am going to just throw it out to the board to make a nomination for whoever wants to nominate somebody, and the process will be if that nomination gets a second, we will discuss it and vote on it. If it doesn't get a second, we move on to another nomination. So anybody feel free.
I will nominate Jeff Maturo for the commissioner spot. I will cast my vote for Jeff Maturo to serve as fire commissioner for the unexpired term of Patrick McCourt, who resigned his position last year. I believe that Mr. Maturo will restore the balance of diversity on this board that our citizens want, and that we lost when Commissioner McCourt's departure. Mr. Maturo brings exceptional life experience and education to the table. He has served the public as a police officer, emergency medical technician, as part of Bonita Springs Planning Agency, and on the Lee County Black Affairs Advisory Committees. Mr. Maturo lives the word that he uttered at the interview. His priority in applying for the fire commissioner position is to serve God, his family, and the Bonita Springs Fire Department. I would be proud to serve with Jeff as a fire commissioner.
Do we have a second to that?
I second that motion.
Any discussion further? No discussion? Take a vote. Commissioner Fitzgerald, you already voted.
I voted, yeah.
Commissioner Murphy?
I'll vote for that.
Commissioner Casella?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you to everybody else for, to Mr. Parton and to Mr. Conforti. I think we couldn't lose here no matter who we picked, but congratulations to
I might add something to that. I would love to see you both be on this commission, and I would love to see you run this fall and have our support.
I also, again, just want to reiterate what you said, Mr. Chairman. We had 3 great candidates, and they're all worthy of the position, but we had to pick one, and I thank you all.
At this point, need Mr. Maturo to come up to the front and be sworn in, and he will take his seat immediately.
Okay, you'll repeat after me. And you can go into the microphone. Okay. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform the duties
perform the duties
of Fire Commissioner of the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District,
of Fire Commissioner of the Bonita Springs Fire Rescue District,
on which you are now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
You say thank you now. Next order of business, I need a motion for the approval of the December 4th, 2017 regular board meeting minutes.
So move.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 One motion for the approval of the December 2017 and current expenditures and ACH payments, the acknowledgement of financial reports, and the acknowledgement of wire transfers and transfers between accounts.
So moved.
Second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion to approve the disposition report that's in your packet.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now comes the fun part. These are the enjoyable ones for us. The presentations and pinning ceremonies and Phoenix Awards. So thank you all for coming out tonight.
Yes, sir. I would like to start with years of service acknowledgements. This particular area is to recognize milestones in some of the employees at the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District's tenure with us. First, I would like to recognize Battalion Chief Barry Brown. I saw Barry here with his lovely wife. There he is. Barry Brown, Battalion Chief Brown, when I began here, was a lieutenant. In fact, as a probationary firefighter, he was my lieutenant. And his leadership was outstanding. I learned a tremendous amount as a young firefighter in 1993, which he had already been here for 5 or 6 years, and he was one of the oldest officers on the district at the time, which was, I believe, the ripe age of 34. Am I right? Yeah, close. So he's also will be entering into retirement, unfortunately, to join his twin brother. Barry, this is not a retirement party, but definitely a recognition of 30 years serving the citizens here. Next, I would like to recognize Lieutenant Nick Areka. Nick began here a long 15 years ago, I believe it was. This was his job from, he moved over from the airport fire department at the time. Nick has had a very good career. He was recently promoted to lieutenant almost exactly 6 months ago. Correct? So I wanted to recognize Nick for his service here of 15 years. You'll get a standing one in another 15, Nick. Next would be Lieutenant Manny Hernandez. I'm not sure if Manny's here. Manny is not here. Manny also came with Lieutenant Areka from the fire department, or from the airport fire department, together, I believe. And it's been an unholy alliance at some times, right? No, but Manny has served the district well for 15 years as well, and is currently an acting battalion chief. Next would be firefighter Kerry Coburn, who I believe is not here as well. Firefighter Coburn, I believe, got hired with the other two gentlemen, and he has done 15 years. Next, we will talk about Administrative Coordinator Jessica DeWitt, who is sitting next to me, who has just completed her 5 years. I wanted to mention also that Jessica is very important to me. She works as the Administrative Coordinator. She handles all the things that I don't know how to do, which is quite a bit. She's invaluable to this district. And I will mention, unfortunately, she will be leaving to pursue a different career, and she will be greatly missed by our fire department family, and most of all myself, who has had a very employment time with Jessica, and her professionalism, and she's just a bright shining star, and I'm sure she's going to do incredible in her new career. But congratulations on your 5 years. Next, Bobby Cruz. He's at the opposite end of the spectrum with 1 year. That's why he's not standing next to Barry. Also, and I believe that's it for the years of service. So if you gentlemen would like to come up front, please.
You need any assistance coming up here, right? You need any assistance getting up here as old as you are? He left his walker in the car.
Okay, as we move on to item B, promotional pinning ceremonies. As the board knows, and I'll inform the district, we have opened up a second battalion, which is now running, in which case we have 2 battalions here in Bonita Springs now, and 7 operating stations hopefully before the end of the week. So first, I would like to recognize Jason Brode, who's not here with us. So we'll move on to Greg Harrell. Greg, if you come up front, please. Greg Harrell has been with the department in, correct me if I'm wrong, 19 years? 19 years Greg Harrell has been with the department. He has served as a firefighter, a driver's engineer, a lieutenant, an acting battalion chief, paramedic. He also teaches paramedic school and EMT school, and he has now finally made the rank of battalion chief, and I can tell you he has worked extremely hard to get to where he is today. He's a friend of mine and an outstanding officer, so congratulations, Greg, on your promotion. Next is an additional battalion chief promotion. That will be Andy Smith. I believe Andy's been here, how long have you been here now? 11 years. I know Andy was one of the first lieutenants that got promoted when we did a promotion for not quite a period of time, and he has advanced up through the ranks just like Mr. Harrell has it from a firefighter, probationary firefighter, lieutenant, driver's engineer, and now he has recently became one of the new battalion chiefs. Andy also is on the urban search and rescue team, so he is a technician in, I believe, rope, confined space, hazmat, if I'm not mistaken, and I can't name the rest because his resume is extensive, but thank you, Andy, and congratulations. You should be proud. Next, I believe we had the lieutenant's promotions, which we are going to postpone at this time. Some of the candidates did not want to get pinned with their firefighter shirts. We're waiting for some of their lieutenants' uniforms, and they wanted to be in full uniform for the ceremony. However, on item C, we'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Scott for a Phoenix Award.
Good afternoon, everyone. September 1st, 2017, this year, we had a resident of Bonita Springs that suffered a sudden cardiac arrest on the tennis courts of Palmyra Country Club. When someone suffers a sudden arrest such as this, there's some things that have to occur and go into action. And it starts with the main focus on what we're going to talk about here for a few minutes is the bystanders and the people nearby. So generally, we think of if someone has an event like this, an emergency, we call 911. And of course, the fire department shows up and the ambulance shows up, and then they get to the hospital and all those things are put in place. So nationwide, not just in Bonita Springs, but in the state of Florida and nationwide, we do this all pretty much the same way, and we've been doing it the same way based upon the American Heart Association and those things for quite some time. So the piece I think that we can improve upon, and an example of that today, is the bystanders. So after our gentleman is in the audience today, after our resident went down, the people that were nearby him initiated CPR. They went and found the nearby AED, and I have to recognize Palmyra for having an AED on site. And they started chest compression, CPR, and they actually defibrillated him 3 times before the 5.5 minutes that we took to get there. Now I'm going to pause for just a second and talk to you all because I think this is a great opportunity for public education. When someone has this event, their blood stops flowing. They have oxygen. They have been breathing. They're playing tennis. So there's not an air problem or an oxygen problem in most cases. What we have to do, what someone has to do is circulate that blood, that oxygen. And of course, the most vital organ that oxygen needs to supply is your brain. So even in the 5.5 minutes, which in this case it took us to get there, is too long. Call 911, dispatcher answers the phone, put all these things in process. They tone us out, we get it, we have to get to our truck, our emergency apparatus, and drive there in season. You all know what the traffic's like. So even though we have oxygen without any circulation at all, many times it's not enough. So we take every opportunity we can to spread the message that everyone intervenes and just learns at least chest compressions. and that blood circulates. You prime the pump, so to speak, which happened in this case. The AED, the importance of the AED is even though there's no oxygen circulating or blood circulating, many times your heart is in a quivering state. There's electrical activity, but it doesn't produce a pulse. So this was the case. The AED recognizes that, it defibrillates or shocks, which stops the heart and hopefully lets it restart in the proper rhythm that it's supposed to, which then enables the patient, the victim, to circulate blood and oxygen. That's exactly what happened in this case. After the third one, when we showed up, the third shock was being delivered. Shortly after that, Mr. Katz had a pulse, a blood pressure, and of course the personnel are here that continued to treat him, that being the fire department, our fire department. Lee County EMS individuals are here. I'll call them out in a few minutes. Got him to the hospital. I think he spent a couple weeks in the hospital. The doctors and the nurses and everybody did their job, and here he sits today. So I'd like to first recognize the bystanders that initiated this. So if you could, when I call your name, come on up to the front. We have a certificate to recognize all of you for your participation in his survival. You actually saved his life, just in case you didn't realize that. So let me put my glasses on here. We have Mr. Bill Handworth. Mrs. Sherry Young. Mr. Harold Outs. And John Hernandez. Mr. Katz, if you would like to join them. If you want to join them at the front, Mr. Katz, it's up to you. Okay. You just want them to get all the recognition, as they should.
John Hernandez, congratulations, great job. Okay, so I'm not done quite yet. Now we're going to recognize the personnel that next arrived from our own fire department, and then we'll do this together because we all, we're the same entity. We're first responders, emergency workers, so for us, we do it all the time, right? So we're gonna bring all of them up. So from our department, we have Lieutenant Plasinski, who's with us, paramedic. And I think Randy Werstein is not in the room. He was there as well. And one of the other firefighters that was there actually has since left and to go to work for a different fire department. And where did he go again? Charlotte, North Carolina. We also have the two individuals from Lee County EMS that transported Mr. Katz to the hospital. Of course, this care continued with, I won't go into all the things that we do, but all the way to the hospital where he was delivered and, of course, survived and walked out of the hospital. And this is Ms. Tiara Johnson and Kevin Murphy, Lee County EMS.
At this time, we're going to take a couple of minute recess for anybody that would like to not have to stay for the rest of the meeting. I know a lot of you are here for the awards and pinnings and all that stuff, so we're going to take a couple of minute break for anybody who would like to vacate. Okay. Okay, let's...
Where'd everybody go?
Well, you know how to clear a room. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is Commissioner's business. Does anybody have anything?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. How about old business? Anybody have any old business?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the chief, how are things coming at Station 6?
I would love to be able to give an opening date, but we expect it should be no later than this Friday, we're hoping. They're expecting Wednesday, but I would think no later than Friday.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, new business. General Employees Retirement System proposed resolution to include part-time employees. Maybe somebody could elaborate on that. I'm sure we've all read it, but maybe the chief would elaborate on that a little bit.
Yes, this issue was brought to the pension board, the civilian pension board. I guess the purpose was to include the temporary, not temporary employees, but part-time employees into the pension system, which they are not included at this time. Just as a note, there are other systems that do include part-time employees in the pension system, such as FRS. We have two part-time employees now. One would be Natalie Hughes and Mr. Kaufman. I did have a price breakdown of what it would cost so the board understands The annual cost would be $15,799.92 should the board approve. If not, then they will not be included into the pension system until a later date, should it ever come up again.
Chief, is this a prorated type of a pension, or are they getting the same pension benefits that every other employee would receive?
The way I understand it, now I'm not a pension expert on this, but the way I understand it from what the document says, there will be two separate pensions. Should the employee, say we have an employee that's full-time, they receive pension benefits for their full-time, and then when they decide to go part-time, or we choose to put them at part-time, that is a whole different set of benefit than when they are full-time. So if they went back to a full-time position, they would be considered a full-time employee again at that point under the full-time system.
Do they get health benefits part-time now?
No. Now, one of the questions that has come up is the vesting requirements. In any case, in all cases, it's a 7-year vesting requirement, which means that they get no benefit unless they're here at a minimum of 7 years, either full-time or part-time.
Okay, well, for the sake of discussion amongst the board, we probably should have a motion in a second and then discuss it before we vote on it, unless...
I'll make a motion, we approve it for discussion purposes.
I have discussion.
We need a second first, before then we can discuss it. So if anybody...
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, now, discussion.
Okay. Who proposed this, Chief?
The pension board.
You mentioned the pension board.
The pension board.
Is the pension board responsible for salaries and benefits of the employees?
No, they are not. The function of the pension board is for one purpose, and that is to sustain and keep the pension functioning as fiduciaries. The funding is the responsibility of the district. Now, the district cannot fund these requests from the pension board. These have come from the general pension board, as you understand. However, it is my duty as the chief to bring these resolutions to the board to determine if the board would entertain, vote yay or nay, versus whether or not they want to fund these projects. Now, this particular proposal is not an increase to the current benefits that the employees receive, from my understanding. It is just adding a part-time class, not adding a benefit to the pension
I'd like to add something to this. If it's been my experience that once you give something, you can never take it back. And I'm not sure that if people that are working part-time, whether they were hired part-time or went to part-time, that was done by choice. And with the pension fund the way it is, and the public, generally speaking, upset with what we spend on pensions, I'm not sure we can justify, or at least I can't justify, putting part-time people, because the next thing is, okay, now we got pensions, now we're going to come back and see if we can't get health insurance. You know, you take a full-time job and you get the benefits, and that's fine. We give the pensions, we give the benefits, but through whatever reason, somebody decides to go to part-time by their own choosing, or if we've hired a person part-time and they've agreed to the terms of that, I'm not sure why we're even considering this, but that's just my thought.
I just have a question too. Maybe I understood what was explained to me. I thought if you were a part-time employee and we voted to go with this, they wouldn't get any benefits until they became full-time employees. And it would be at no cost to us at this time. And I just heard different things, and I'm a little confused.
They do not get benefits until they're here 7 years. Whether they're part-time, full-time, that's 7 years for a general employee. It's 10 years for a firefighter. So if somebody's here 6 years, 364 days, and they leave, that money stays in the pension system, and they do not collect it. And in all eventuality, the district has put into the pension system, which, once it's actuarially done, that money stays in the pension system, which could potentially lower the amount the district has to continue to put in from a percentage standpoint. Now, you'd have to have the actuaries give you a much more detailed presentation than what I'm giving here. However, they do qualify for the benefit once they reach 7 years, whether full or part-time. And they will still have to put in their percentage as well. For example, they would have to put in their 7%, at which time, when they sever employment prior to 7 years, they would get their cash back, their money that they put in. But no employee will receive any pension benefit from the general employee standpoint until they're at least here, full or part-time, for 7 years. And the two systems are separate. Part-time and full-time will be considered as separate benefit. For example, if I'm here 3 years of a part-time employee, that payout, that benefit, will be as a part-time employee once they reach normal retirement age. And another benefit will be, if they go to full-time, will be at a different rate, meaning a different calculation, because they didn't work a full-time position. So
But you're saying that the cost right now for the part-time employees we have, just if this passed, right off the bat, it's going to be $15,000 or $16,000 more a year. Now,
yes.
Once again, I'm going to repeat what I said. Once you give something, you can never ever take it back, because once something's in a contract, it's there, and it's very, very difficult to rescind. Having said that, is down the road, the decision we make here tonight can affect this district for a very, very long time, because right now we only have 2 people, but as time goes on, we don't have a crystal ball, but as time goes on and you end up with several more part-time people, I think the increase in the pension cost is going to be significant, and at a time when most people are trying to get us to do something about pensions and to lower them, I just, as a representative of the taxpayer and a representative of the department, I just see a very slippery slope by adopting this.
Chief, do you find this to be a tool for you to be able to hire and maintain your staff?
Well, I mean, it certainly is. If we were hiring part-time employees, it would certainly be something that would entice new employees to come to the job. But I don't, at this point in time, I don't foresee hiring part-time employees.
Okay.
I mean, I think we have.
So it's not really necessary as a tool.
Right.
Excuse me, you should speak into the microphone.
I know we're not FRS, but do you know if FRS offers these benefits for someone that's part-time?
FRS does require part-time employees to be in the FRS system.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Well, there's a motion and a second.
If FRS requires, why are we debating whether they should be in it or not?
In FRS.
We're not in FRS.
We're not in FRS.
No, sir.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. I guess all in favor? No? Motion fails. Okay, next item, Station 6, construction change orders. I'm not going to read I'm not going to read everything that's on there, but it's in our packet. We've looked at the numbers. It's not a huge, significant amount of money, and you look at the big picture. I need a motion to approve the change order.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The Corey McCahey contract for Station 3 architect design. We need I think it speaks for itself. I don't think we have to, unless the chief has something to say about it. But it's basically the same, pretty much the same contract that we had for the last one. I need a motion to accept that.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the EnviroStruct contract for Station 3 construction, maybe the chief will, it's in here. It's lengthy. The one thing I would like to note is that somewhere, I don't know what the dollar amount should be, but we should put a not to exceed in there, because this is a little bit different with taking down an old building, and we don't know the exact cost of that at this point, and hauling it away. And with the change orders that we've had, I know that the removal and the demolition won't affect their contract, but the part of their contract, I think the one thing that stood out to me is that there was no upside to it, and maybe we should just make sure that we have a not to exceed dollar amount. I don't know what that amount would be, and that would be for you guys to sit down and work out.
If I may, sir?
Yes.
This contract here is virtually the same, and this is a working document, the same as the contract that we proposed for Station 26. If you'll look, I believe on page 3, Article 4, contract sum, that's the 1.876653 number. That is the amount of construction, the construction cost. So if the board wants to approve a not to exceed, this is a working document here. However, that number would be a decent number for the board to determine whether you would like to do a not to exceed that number. The rest of the contract is just some language that we're still waiting on Terry Lewis to approve at this point.
Right.
Other than that, the number.
But we had, the reason that I'm even questioning it is that we had several change orders on the station that we haven't even opened yet, and we've had a time delay. Okay, we had a storm, okay? But we had a lot of missteps that should have been picked up when they drew up the original plan. It happens, but I don't want it to happen twice.
We're going to learn from the first.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you learn when you make a mistake. Anybody can make a mistake, and it fell through the cracks and it was overlooked. But this time, I don't think this board is going to be as free at approving change orders for more money that should have been included in the price. That's just my thought on it.
This contract, as we have, the number that you see here, includes all the items that have already been changed and have been approved by the board for change orders.
Okay.
So this number
That's fine.
should be, includes all the necessary
Just remember you
changes
said
we
that.
had. Well, if I was a construction people, you know, I mean, I'm just telling you what I know as far as it goes.
Was that an insult? Construction people?
Of course not.
All right, we need a motion to approve this contract.
I'll make that motion.
Well, if I may.
You may.
Just not the contract, because we still
What,
need to do some language, just
just
the
the-
not to exceed number in the contract.
Right. So that's a work in progress. We need a motion to
Yes,
approve this.
just to approve the not to
And
exceed
then-
number, and then we'll get the whole contract.
There we go.
That's better.
Okay.
I'll second that motion then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Assistant Chief, did you have something?
I just wanted to make a statement that, just concerning the not to exceed number, that if we do make a change that we see as necessary, we would go over that not to exceed number.
Well, we would have to bring that to the
Okay.
board.
And if we do commit.
Well, you should be looking at that stuff now before, I mean, honestly, we've done enough of these in the last few years now that we
Well,
should have a real good idea what we need and what we...
But sometimes it goes out of our control. A good example on this station was we had picked light fixtures, and by the time the light fixtures came in, they had done a discontinue of that light fixture. So we had to go with a different light fixture, which was...
Well, go with a cheaper one, not a more expensive one.
Well, that's kind of what happened, was we went with a cheaper one, and we had to put another pole up because
Oh,
it
of
didn't
course,
give
yeah.
enough lumens in the parking lot.
Of
So that was a
course.
little cost, and we had to move poles and then pay for the conduit and so on.
I understand. I'm only being facetious when I say that. Okay. Chief Daigle, your report.
I have nothing.
Good. We've gone over a lot of stuff tonight. Greg, do you have anything?
No, sir, I have nothing.
Rich?
No, sir.
And we have Deputy Chief Madden's report in our packet. So at this point, Mr. Grant, if you have something you'd like to say, you have the floor.
Thank you, Alex Grant, 11851 East Terry Street, Bonita Springs, Florida. First of all, thank you for not voting for the proposed resolution on the part-time employees' pension. Thank you. I'll give you a compliment. Okay, now, here I have the article by Commissioner Fitzgerald, and I read the article. Thank you, Commissioner Fitzgerald. And I have, as you probably well know, all the audits from years back. And what I read in the auditor's report, Ashley Brown, this was back a couple years ago, and this is what I'm a little, I noticed that there's a cap. At that time, it was $210,000 that anybody could get after 17 years on the pension program. This is the firefighters, not the general employees, the firefighters. Now, am I correct in if it's before June 2010, as I understood it, it was 3.58% increase per year. Now, am I right in assuming if somebody gets the $115,930 that you mentioned, then the first year at 3.58% is $4,150, and that will bring it up to $120,000 after the first year. Now, am I right? 3.58%.
Once his pension is fixed, there is no more multipliers.
But it's 3.58%.
That's for his service. Once he goes on pension, he doesn't get 3.58 for every year thereafter.
Well, that was the question that I had. That's the question. If, in other words, he gets $115,930, does he get a cost of, according to the auditor, as I understood it, there's a cost of living increase.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, but it's not 3.58.
It is not 3.5.
3%.
It's what?
3%.
3%, even if it's before, because it's before, if the guy was hired
Well,
before.
this isn't a question and answer period. This is
Well, no, I understand,
Let's
but according to the audit, if it's before 2010, it's 3.58.
Alex, I'm going to respectfully ask you to come in and talk to staff about this
Okay.
and not take time at a public meeting
All
for
right.
this. Thank you.
Well, you get, let me, okay.
I'll talk to you, Alex.
Thank you. Okay, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.